It's time for Chicagoland Golf with the editor and publisher of Chicagoland Golf Magazine, Phil Kosin. The show where for the next 2 hours, you'll get the latest info from the PGA Tour, local tournaments, and tips for your golf game. And now, your host, Phil Kosin.
Thank you, boys. And good morning, everyone. Do I need to tell you that you just listened to the PGA Championship polka? Dave White, is that necessary?
No, I think everybody knows that.
But don't be fooled, because they do all sound the same.
There was no whining in this polka, though.
I didn't hear anybody yelling, yee-hee-hee, hoya hoya, either. And it has nothing to do with Georgetown. God, we got a good show today. PGA Championship weekend. We turned the microphone toward Detroit today, and we hear a lot of whining and weeping. And you think Reese Jones is getting some publicity this week, Dave?
I think he's probably smiling ear to ear.
But you know the funny part? It's not Reese. And if you're listening, and by the way, he will be here next week to answer all the charges. No, I'm just kidding. Major player complaints, which, what a surprise, some of the players don't like the way the courts is set up. Ooh, that's cutting some new ground. Yeah, there's been some player complaints. But, you know, like you, you probably orgied out on it for 2 days. We're going to do it over the weekend, too. It's hardly compelling, though, without Tiger Woods in it. I'm sorry. There's just something missing, folks. Like, really good, consistent play from one player. You know, you have this kid. I mean, it can't be that tough of a golf course. You have this kid. He's a foreign player. What's his name? Charles Schwartztel. Can't be that tough. He made 6 birdies on the front, which was his inward 9 yesterday, and that helped him make the cut. Shot 31 coming in on the front 9 at Oakland Hills. It's just one of those golf courses where you makes your birdies early, you tucks them in your little bag, and then you spends them as you come in. Very much like Pebble Beach. Yeah, you can make birdies at Oakland Hills. You can make a lot of others, too. I think if there are some players' complaints, which, you know, we revel in this stuff, it's because of the thick growth around the greens, which has nothing to do with Reese Jones, and the speed and contours of the greens, which also doesn't have anything to do with Reese Jones. He hasn't touched it. Most of those are the original Donald Ross green contours. I don't think in 1951 his dad touched the greens at all either. So if guys are complaining about the greens, complaining about the contours on the greens, the speed, and the salad bar that lines the greens, too bad. It's not Reese Jones. It's not what Reese did. Jeez. Anyway, Reese will be here next week. But it's fascinating. And we have J.B. Holmes, who's one of the big bombing gougers. He's leading a major today, the only player under par. He was 2 under yesterday. He won over his first round. He's 1 under. And then they all line up. We're going to talk more about that during the second half of the show. We're going to have Mike Kern on from the Philadelphia Daily News. And also Jack Barry will check in with us. That is his home course, Jack Barry. Of course, being the dean of the Detroit Golf Writers. He's been doing it for over 50 years and has been covering golf since 1961 in the events that have happened at Oakland Hills. That's a long time. That's what, 39, 48 years. That's a long time. It's older than maybe some of you that are out there listening this morning. But we'll bring that to you later on. First part of the show, we're going to have some fun because every once in a while something happens in this business that just really gets me going, and I get really and truly excited. And it's when somebody that is a friend gets himself into the national spotlight. It's even better when nobody expected it, and that's what happened last week. Billy Rosinia, the golf professional at Flag Creek Golf Club over in Countryside. That's the countryside where I-55 and 294 cross over each other. Billy Rosinia got into the U.S. Senior Open as an alternate off of his finish at Hillcrest Country Club. You know what? I'm going to let him tell the story because I want to. It's always been fun. Hey, Dave, I'm getting a real bad echo, so can you adjust that maybe? But I'm going to try to get Billy on here, and so we're going to start with the beginning and go all the way through the whole process of what his experience was like, because it's fascinating for a guy that, runs Flag Creek Golf Club, golf pro here, kind of a tin cup story. And the next thing he knows, he finds himself on the range, warming up next to and playing in groups with the biggies, the big names of the sport. So let's bring him in. Good morning, Billy Rosinia.
Good morning, Phil. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you today?
Good. Living a dream, Phil. Living a dream.
Well, when we talked earlier in the week to set this up, and believe me, you got plenty of pub on this show last week, too. First, by the way, I just want you guys to notice that the Tribune and the Signs sometimes didn't do very much with this at all, did they? But that's okay. That's okay. I'm glad they're doing things the way they're doing them. Me and my little publication, after 20 years, we just sit there. We'll take care of all the things that they can't get to or they don't have space for or whatever. But anyway, when we talked last week, you said you came home and after being treated like royalty, you think to yourself, what next? So have you had time to figure out what next?
Well, no, I mean, it's good to be back, and there's been a lot of support from the local community. It's been just a wonderful experience for me and my family, friends. The support not only from you, but everybody surrounding the golf community here has been great. But it's day to day now. I mean, it's we're just going to enjoy ourselves and finish out the rest of the season, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's brought you all kinds of offers of riches. Any openings of like car washes or maybe a free meal at the restaurant or anything like that?
No, the only free meals are at home, Phil. That's about it.
Actually, Bill, and as we all know, we can tell the listeners, there ain't no such thing as a free meal. But anyway, that's for another show. All right, so you go to Hillcrest and you play, and you end up with first alternate. You drive out of that parking lot that day. What's on your mind?
Well, speaking to Phil Benson or Steve Benson and Mike Harrigan, they both said that there'd be a pretty good chance because of the lottery draw or the equation that the USGA uses when they determine who, as an alternate, gets to go. I had some promise in that. But you never really are comfortable with that. I mean, a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of tournaments that I thought I would get in that I didn't get in, and vice versa. So we really anticipated the call, and I waited and waited and waited, not knowing whether or not to make arrangements to fly out to Colorado Springs or to sit home. I was an exempt player in the Illinois Open. So that was, questionable whether to give up the Illinois Open to go out and sit on the tee box. And unlike other tour events, the USGA does not allow their alternates to play the golf course. You can go up and use the facility, you can practice, but you cannot play the golf course as an alternate, which meant a lot,
All right, so you actually went in the first day without a practice round, or did you get one earlier in the week after you found out you got in?
Well, no, those were the determining factors prior to getting the call on Thursday the week before. Once I got the call and I was entered into the field, then the floodgates opened up. You were able to play practice rounds. You were able to stay at the Broadmoor under the player credentials, and it was a totally different environment at that point.
And how much was that worth a night?
Well, that was significant. I think the rooms were $450, and they gave a significant break. on that. So we were able to afford to stay on property, on site, and that was great. I mean, you got to walk to the practice rounds and to the tournament, and rather than shuttle your car and deal with the parking issues. But no, it was great. It was a great experience. The Broadmoor is a wonderful facility. I think that the USGA chose a great venue in the Broadmoor, not only from a player standpoint, but from a spectator standpoint also.
All right, so you get the call on Thursday, and they say, Billy, you're in. You don't leave right away. What's the first thing you do? I mean, do you say, honey, I can't wash the dishes. I've got to take care of my hands. I'm playing in the U.S. Senior Open next week.
Well,
I mean, seriously, though, what do you do? I mean, how do you, ramp up your game or get yourself prepared to do something like that? And I think the people are interested in this.
Well, that was in the back of my mind. I was going to probably go out there regardless of whether I was an alternate or in the field. I had determined that a few days prior. Basically, I'd been practicing a little bit over at Cog Hill. The Jump Six were kind enough to allow me to use the short game area behind the barn. So I was working my short game a little bit extra hard, knowing that roughs would be up and fairways and greens would be at a premium. So I was prepared mentally and physically. My trainer and I had talked a little bit about the altitude change. There were things that I was doing that in preparation for the event. But then I told my girlfriend, I told Chrissy, I said, now it comes down to us really scrambling for our travel arrangements. And at that point, I had some offers. A good friend of mine runs a car dealership, was going to give me a Tahoe, and I was going to drive out, just throw all my basically tin cup it, throw everything in the car and drive out. But then we thought about the logistical side of that and the fact that 16 hours would take its toll on this body of mine, and then we decided to fly out, and then it was basically making travel arrangements to get out to Colorado Springs.
Once you got out there, did you perform the time-honored ceremony, or did you forget? Did you guys eat at a Waffle House? And, wait, I'm not kidding you. You would be surprised at how many guys do that. That's why that's not something they made up for the movie Tin Cup, folks. That's the way guys do it.
No, I can't say that we did.
You went to the Vatican, you didn't see the Pope. That's what happened.
Right. We couldn't find a caddy. Chrissy said that she would caddy for me, and I laid in bed Friday night thinking about the altitude and the fact that you have to be a mountain goat to get up and down that terrain, and we didn't have a caddy, so that was the biggest concern at that point. But we did get in touch with the head pro there, and he was kind enough to find us a nice gal, somebody that had caddied there in the past a few years, and her name was Stephanie. And we thank God we were able to obtain Stephanie as a caddy.
Okay, so you got yourself a caddy. What's the altitude difference there? What's the altitude at the Broadmoor?
Well, it's a mile high. It's over 5,000 feet.
Okay, that feeds into my next question. What does that do to your calculations for all your irons and everything?
Well, we talked about that with Graham Corti is Lauren Roberts' caddy, and he's a friend of mine, and we discussed that a little bit, and I got to meet Fred Funk's caddy, Mark Long, I believe his name is, and he had a book out. So I was basically calculating at 8 to 10% greater flight time, or whatever you want to call it, distance control. So he had a book out, a significant book that he did with all of the calculations in it, none of which had altitude, only topographical. But she was pretty sharp, Stephanie, and she was quick with her math, and we basically calculated out at 8 to 10%.
All right. You hang on. We're talking to Billy Rosidia. This is fascinating, folks. You want to find out what it's like? You have that Walter Mitty dream. All of you boomers out there, hey, one day I might go out and play in the U.S. Senior Open or something like that. This guy did it. It was unlikely. He didn't expect it. But, you take your chances and you see where the dice fall. and he got himself in. So we're going to talk more with Flag Creek Pro Billy Rosinia, the star, our local star in last week's U.S. Open. After these messages, this is Phil Kosin. You're listening to the Chicagoland Golf Show on The Score, Sports Radio 670. All right, whoever thought we'd live long enough to see Mick Jagger still touring and using cue cards? 6:21 on The Score. Talking to Billy Rosinia. Before we get back to Billy, though, in fairness, Billy was not the only person with local ties to play in last week's U.S. Senior Open at the Broadmoor. Two of our Champions Tour guys from the area, Jeff Sluman from Hinsdale, and Gary Hallberg, who grew up in Barrington, was on this show about a couple months ago. They both made the cut, but we expect that out of them. That's what they do for a living. There were, other than Billy Rosinia, there were three others from the area, and I don't want to neglect to mention that they played. Jerry Vidovic, he's the head golf professional at the Meadows Golf Club in Bull Island, and I think Jerry won the U.S. Amateur Public Links probably about 20-something years ago. Good player and really a good guy. Tom Studer, who's one of the more accomplished amateurs from the area. Tom's out of the Joliet area. Tom got in there. And Tommy Robinson, who's really a good player. He's the golf course superintendent at Ravinia Green. But the reason I asked Billy to come on was easy. He was easy to pick out of those four. Billy made the cut, and he tied for 40th. And we're going to talk to him some more. But first, Billy, okay, let's continue this story about your going to the Broadmoor, biggest surprise. Well, not really a surprise, but I suppose it will be a surprise to get into something like this. Hopefully for you, it's not going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now that you got a taste of it, you can go for it again next year. But you find out that you're in, you go there, and then you go to warm up on the practice range at the Broadmoor, and, like, here's all these balls piled up, and they're almost brand new, whatever kind you want, and there's, like, a sign there with your name, and there's people that paid to get in sitting in the grandstand watching you hit balls, and you look left of you and to the right of you on the range, and here's guys that are the legends of the game. What's that like?
Well, I looked to see if they didn't. They watched me fill my bag with their balls, but after that, it was awe-inspiring. You know, I had Hale Irwin in front of me one day and Crenshaw behind me. You know, these are the guys that I grew up with watching play, and you know, hair on the back of your neck stands up. But I was basically working through process the entire time I was there, even on the practice range. I tried not to look around too much. I wanted to stay with my process and commit to what I was doing, and that was to make the cut.
Yeah, I know, and you're a big hero to everybody that plays at Flag Creek, you know, and you got to think, you get in a situation like that, and I don't know about you, maybe you're different than I am, but it would take me a whole day to, like, get over thinking, God, what am I doing here? I mean, did you feel any of that?
The first time I drove the golf course, got in on Saturday and was able to, the course was closed to everybody but the players, and if you got there early enough, you could take a cart around the golf course. I played 9 holes on Saturday and 9 holes on Sunday. But what I did is I charted the course in the cart, and looking at the rough and trying to figure out where the shots would deploy and end up. You know, I did ask myself a few times, what am I doing here?
Yeah, especially, and then you go back to the hotel, and it's like a who's who in the halls, in the bar, in the dining room, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we had Mark O'Mara next to us in the room, and I don't know who we had across the room, but we had a couple. David Eager was staying there also. But, you know, left and right, you're just seeing these names and faces of people that have been accomplished players for many years.
So you go there and you're in awe of all this. How do you stay on track? And I mean, it really is an accomplishment to stay on track, because most guys would be, let's face it, most guys are happy just to get there. And then not only are you happy to get there, but you got it in your head strong enough to play well enough to make the cut.
Well, Philly, I do think, though, playing in the Western Open a couple of years ago helped me to redefine my focus. You know, I'd gone to the Western Open, I'd done all of the looking around I could do, and then this was more business for me. I wanted to make the cut. It was an accomplishment, and it was a goal that I had set. So, you know, I did a little of that. I looked around. I didn't have anybody but my girlfriend with me to really take away my focus. So I basically just tried to stay with, like I said earlier, with process, and that was I was going to do what I did best, and that was I was going to practice, I was going to rest well, eat well, and the rest I figured was up to the big fella, up to God. So.
Yeah, well, obviously you did a great job. What was it like now? You play the first round, and you got to look at the tee sheet and where you are after the first round, and you think, my God, I'm like tied for what, 22nd, 20th?
Yeah, again, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. I knew I played pretty well. 71 for me was a good score. I wanted to keep it around par. Obviously, I would have loved to have broken par one of the days, but I didn't. But my goal was to keep the ball in play, hit as many fairways and greens as I could, and try to keep the three putts to a minimum. And I accomplished that. Other than the last day, I lost it a little bit, but I was quite happy with the way I played, and I really didn't look at scores or positions at that point. Friday was a little bit of a different story because I had a late tee time on Friday. I had a 2:20 tee time. I brought my daughter out, and we had the golf on, and all we did was watch the tournament. Well, they kept projecting the cut at +5. So, then the quantitative thoughts started to come into my mind, and I didn't like that too much. But we fought it off, and I played a pretty solid round on Friday, and it was panacea when they said, "Oh, you're well inside the cut line," and that was a real breath of relief. So that was great.
All right, we'll come back and we'll talk about the weekend. Our guest on this portion of the show is our old friend Billy Rosinia. He's the golf club professional at Flag Creek Golf Club in Countryside. And no, that's the one south of LaGrange, not the other one up north. And Billy played in the U.S. Senior Open last week, and we're getting an insider's look from every man. Tin Cup kind of thing. You can make all the comparisons you want, but that's what happened. And he came through with flying colors. Billy finished tied for 40th. And not only he picked up a little over $12,000, but when we come back, Billy, get ready. I want to hear the stories about all the tchotchke and the bling that they throw at you when you go at things like this. It's 6:28 on the Score. This is the Chicagoland Golf Show. I'm Phil Kosin, and you're listening to the Score Sports Radio. It's 6:34 on the Score. If you've got a tee time this morning, looks like we're going to have a beautiful day, beautiful weekend for golf. Oh, how could you not want to be outside? The weather's going to be clement, comfortable, not sweaty and hot and humid. So if you get a chance, go out and play golf today. If you don't, watch the PGA Championship. But thanks for joining us here on a Saturday morning. We're talking to Billy Rosinia. Billy is the club professional at Flag Creek Golf Club in Countryside, and Billy got himself into the Senior Open last week. And listening to your story, Billy, it's just great. Now, what happened on Friday night? You went back to the hotel, and Mark O'Mara missed the cut, your next-door neighbor at the hotel, so you said, you want me to help you carry your suitcase out, Mr. O'Mara?
Nothing like that. So.
I'd help you, Mark, but I can't. I don't want to hurt my arm because I got to play over the weekend.
He's got a young family, so I think he was preoccupied with his kids. But, yeah.
I'm only having fun with you.
Yeah.
I know you. You wouldn't do anything like that. You'd think of it.
No, actually, I did offer to help Greg Norman carry his bag. He every morning it seemed like we would meet each other at a junction on the walking path over to the golf course, and he was walking with his staff bag and his duffel. So I offered to help him out, but he seemed to be pretty fit and didn't need my assistance.
You know what? And after all he's gone through and he's got some ashes in his history, he is really still a good guy.
Yeah, he's. They're all pretty solid guys. I mean, they were very respectful, and like I say, I had no complaints whatsoever. They were really quite nice to me. So.
You know, when you go to those things, everybody's nice to you when you're a player. It's like magic, isn't it? I mean, you're treated. I mean, Chrissy was telling me on the phone during the week about some of the tchotchke and the bling that they were throwing at you, food and stuff in the room and all kinds of goodies. And then what else? I mean, let the average guy listening this morning on the score know what kind of stuff is thrown at you when you qualify for a national championship like that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're talking some novelty items. There were some ornaments. Every night you'd come back to the room and there was something waiting for you, whether it be Rocky Mountain Coors or cheese and wine, ornaments, nuts, candy. You know, it was just one of the amenities of staying there. I think they were just accommodating the pros that way. But they also allowed my daughter and Chrissy to go on some tours, fashion shows. They went up to Pikes Peak, wine tasting. You know, there's a lot going on during the week. They keep the wives busy and the family very busy. There were some clubs available. Odyssey was kind enough to give me a putter to try and use in the tournament. TaylorMade had some drivers. Adams had some utility clubs. So, it's like Christmas for the average guy. I don't get treated that way on a daily basis, but they took real good care of me. So.
Now you know what the life of being a golf writer's like.
I'm sure.
Except, yeah, I know, but you know what? Because of ethics, I turn that stuff down. And most guys should. That's not the way to operate. But, boy, they throw it at you, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do.
What, incidentally, let's just take the listeners aside in another place here. Did Odyssey make you any kind of an offer, a money offer, if you played the putter during the tournament?
No. Actually, they didn't. I think you have to be staffed with somebody before they give you teed-up money. So I wasn't aware of any of that money anyway.
Well, when Jim Flood had the company back in the early 90s, when the Odyssey putter first came out, and everybody on the senior tour was using it, and this is how they market things, folks, and get you to buy them. It seemed like everybody on the senior tour especially was using an Odyssey putter. Now, granted, it was a good putter. I'm not demeaning it at all. But let's face it, you're looking for two things, Billy, pace and direction on a putt. It's not like picking out a driver and you need a high kick point and low modulus of elasticity and all this. I mean, it's just a putter. A good putter could putt with a 2x4. I think we've talked about that in this show before. But one of the big reasons that on the senior tour you saw so many Odyssey putters was if you had it in your bag that weekend when the folks from the Darrell survey did their little thing at the tee, you got $150 for each round you played with that putter. 3 rounds in a senior event, that's $450. Pretty much would take care of your caddy for the week. Right. And so that's why I was asking you, Bill, if there was anything like that, if they were pushing it on you, saying, and you'll get $100 a day or $150 a day for every day you've got it in your bag at the tee.
Phil, I think, again, from the experience I've had playing in the Westerns, that you have to be on staff with somebody before they do that. Now, I could be wrong, but that's something that I didn't create for myself, no.
So that putter is in the barrel over at Flag Creek right now with how much on it?
It's on my dream green. It's I was surprised. I did get a chance to play with Ben Crenshaw in a practice round, and I watched him putt, obviously. And he putts with a pretty old putter, and I was quite surprised to see that he hasn't caught up to the technology. But he rolled it real well with an antiquated putter. So I don't know if it's the Arrow or the Indian.
Well, that's a famous putter in that it was stolen from his bag while his bag went through an airport. They didn't know whether it happened on which end of the flight it happened on, but he got to the tournament site took the cover off his bag, opened it up, and the putter was gone. And, of course, they made a nationwide appeal for it, and whoever had it anonymously left it at I don't know where they dropped it off, at a firehouse or something like that, but he eventually got it back a few weeks later. So you were playing with history there with not only Ben Crenshaw in your group, but that putter.
Right. And I think that's changed the complexion of the way they transport their clubs now. I think most of the guys now FedEx their clubs to the site. I noticed a lot of FedEx tags in the locker room when I got there. So I don't even think they go through the airlines very much anymore, unless they're flying their own planes.
Yeah, there's also somebody that's got a truck that's locked and is always under guard, and it drives from one event to the others if they choose to put, because let's face it, with the way the airlines are charging $7 for a blanket and a spun paper pillow, it gets expensive. And by having it on a very secure truck with a guard with it all the time, that's another way they're doing it.
Right.
All right, so you play in the U.S. Senior Open. Ben Crenshaw plays a practice round. You're treated like royalty, and in spite of all that, you're able to keep yourself on track to where you finish, make a nice little check for yourself, get some memories. But truly, what do you take out of this, Billy?
Just, a lot of experience, in my efforts, and I hope that all the younger players realize that if you stay with your dreams and your goals and you accommodate yourself with practice and perseverance, that you can do anything you want. And they're great experiences. My family, my daughter, and the friends that were able to experience this will just hold us the rest of their lives. So hang in there, the main thing.
Well, okay, now you got a taste of it. Wouldn't you like to do it again next year? And the interesting part is, next year it's a crooked stick, which means all of your fans over there, your buddies from Flag Creek, can make the trip down to watch you play.
Well, that's a year away, and we never really know what's ahead of us. But that would be a great thought, and I'm certainly going to set my goals on that and my sights. But right now, we're just taking care of business here, back to the grindstone. We've been away from the club for over a week, and it's nice to be back. And I've got a few events ahead of me left in the 08 season, so we're just going to focus on those, and one day at a time, one tournament at a time.
Well, I think you're going to use this as a calming influence. You all of a sudden now playing some of these section events they're taken in a different perspective. It's just like when I used to go out and play with the Weekly Challenge Golf Tour. There was a certain amount of nervousness and everything when I played all the time with that, which is good. That's part of it. If you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you. Right. But when I would play in a USGA qualifier, or I would play in the Illinois Senior Open or some much bigger event, and I'd come back to that, I wasn't as nervous anymore. And what you're going to bring back to your section events in the Illinois Senior Open later on this season is that, I can do this because I made the cut at the U.S. Senior Open. And you know what? That's something you can't buy or get out of a book or a video.
Well, you're hired, Phil. You'll be in my corner.
Yeah. I'm always in your corner, Bill.
Thanks.
I'll come by and have a hot dog one of these days.
Absolutely. Come play 9.
Yeah. I've been there before.
I know.
Yeah.
Founding
fathers.
All right.
What's that?
I say you're one of the founding fathers. We've got you posted on our gallery up here.
Well, it was one of those things. We saw an opportunity to publicize the Park District and the city of Countryside getting that golf course and keeping a developer from turning it into a Sam's Club and a theater and a strip mall and a bunch of condos. And, I'm glad a lot of us worked together on that. And I'm glad we got it accomplished, and I'm glad that golf course is there. And, yeah, I feel a little bit of pride every time I drive past there, knowing that I had something to do with it being there, and that's a nice feeling that you had an impact. You were able to do something like that.
Absolutely. You kept it green, and that's what the community really needed, was to keep this green and not a big cement building.
Yeah, and you know what? The whole thing was I met some wonderful people along the way, and we had a ball doing it. Because, you know what? It was the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So, all right, go back to work, and we'll talk to you soon. Congratulations, and I appreciate your coming on with us this morning and giving our listeners a little peek behind the scenes as what it's like to get to go to one of those things.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for all your support, and good luck this year.
All right, Billy.
Bye-bye,
That's
buddy.
Billy Rosinia from Flag Creek. As you probably can tell, he made the cut. He not only got in as an alternate, talk about, trying for things, reaching for things that some people might say, well, that's out of your reach. He went and played in a qualifier at Hillcrest a few weeks ago, got to be an alternate. Oh, God, who dropped out? Larry, I'm blanking on his name now. Anyway, Larry Nelson dropped out of the event, and Billy got in, and you got to hear, you don't get to hear that too much. You hear tour pros talking all the time, but you don't get to hear all the back-of-the-scenes stuff. And Billy experienced it for the first time, so it's not something he takes for granted. And then it's an experience he doesn't take for granted. That's why I think it's interesting to listen to that. So that's why we had him on this morning, and we're going to come back with more. We got a lot of talk about this week's event, the PGA Championship, coming up. We're going to talk to Mike Kern from the Philadelphia Daily News. We're going to talk to Jack Barry, and I might have a few thoughts and opinions on what's going on myself. It's 6:46 in Chicago. I'm Phil Kosin. This is the Chicagoland Golf Show, and you're listening to The Score, Sports Radio 670. That's J.B. Holmes. He's getting up this morning. He's leading the PGA Championship at Oakland Hills. He is at 1 under, the only person in the field that is under par. And, we're going to have Jack Barry join us in about a half hour after Mike Kern. But Jack was out there, of course. That's, he's, you don't know anything about Jack. He's covered golf in the Detroit area for either the Free Press or the Detroit News for 40 years. He's been covering golf events at Oakland Hills since 1961, so that's 48 years. And so he's seen them all that were significant. And he takes a great delight, just like we do here. He's the guardian and protector of Oakland Hills, as I try to be for, I stick up for Cog Hill in the national media. I stick up for Medina when morons like Bradley Klein from Golf Week decide that they need more attention called to themselves, so they write articles ripping Medina. Brad did the same thing this week with Oakland Hills, and we'll talk about that. He talked about the golf course. The problem is that these things have stood up to the test of time, and they're still ranked in the top 10 or 15 golf courses in the country. Of course, Brad Klein, he also went out on a limb this year and decided that he was going to rip all the changes, and Golf Week dropped Augusta National from the top 1 or 2 spot in their rankings to number 9, and all these people were telling me that because of that, all the members at Augusta National were going to make all kinds of changes now to the golf course so that they could get back to be number 1 in Golf Week. Who cares? These people don't even realize, the people that are telling you that stuff don't even realize, the members at Augusta National, they're all self-made men. They're all captains of industry. They're all hugely wealthy. They could care less about what Brad Klein does. So in that respect, I'm with them. When guys like that want to write things to call attention to themselves, that's a problem. That's a problem. Brad Klein of Golf Week. Anyway, the fewest number of players through par under 36 holes in the PGA Championship, a lot of these go back. The most recent, the only one in the 2000s was at Oak Hill. There were 3 guys that were under par going into the weekend. And before that, heck, you go back to Southern Hills. Well, in 72 at Oakland Hills, there was only 1, just like this year. Olympia Fields in 1961, they had 4 guys. But this, that's the way it goes. This isn't, everybody's saying the U.S. Open is breaking out. It's just tough. These are tough greens. You can watch it on television. You see the contours. I think it's fun to putt greens like that. I wouldn't want to play on them all the time. But I think it's fun to putt because you need an imagination on those greens. Because sometimes you have to start your putt way left or way right of where the hole is. It's not just, straight at the hole with a little 6-inch or 2 foot of break or whatever. These, you're going to get some putts there that have 30 feet of break, 40 feet of break. And to me, that makes it fun. These guys are all pampered millionaires, and I don't mind watching them struggle a little bit to win something. That's all. Only happens maybe 4 times a year. All right, it's 6:55 in Chicago. We'll take a break, and we'll come back, and Mr. Opinion, you know, Mike Kern from the Philadelphia Daily News, he always has an opinion about everything, and we're going to hear some of those because he's at Oakland Hills. He's been there all week. This is Phil Kosin. This is The Score, Sports Radio 670.
Let's get back to Phil Kosin and Chicagoland Golf on 670 The Score.
This segment on The Score and Chicagoland Golf is brought to you by the DQ Hot Dog of the Week. Win a Dairy Queen gift card. Log on to 670thescore.com for the Dairy Queen Hot Dog of the Week contest information. And I might as well remind you right now while we're taking care of business, Grossinger Chevy is Chicago's home for Westwood One's coverage of the Summer Olympics on The Score. Scratch that one off, Dave. And now it's time to talk about the PGA Championship. And thank you to TNT and the PGA of America and CBS for the multiple-hour orgy that we get to enjoy. Today in Chicago, it starts at 10 o'clock this morning. Get plenty of golf. We go out to the Oakland Hills area to visit with our old friend, Mike. I've got an opinion on everything. Kern from the Philadelphia Daily News. Hi, Mikey. Good morning.
I got nothing to say today. By the way, I love Dairy Queen hot dogs. So,
do you?
Oh, yeah, they're very good. And you put about 15. I mean, they're not, I understand in Chicago you have Chicago dogs, and, I understand there's I'm not trying to equate, but I'm just saying we don't have Chicago dogs in Philly, and when you can find the occasional DQ, yeah, you can get a pretty decent little hot dog. So,
well, I've yet to taste.
Send a couple over.
There's a lot of places here, Mike, that sell a Philly cheese sandwich, not a Philadelphia cheese, but Philly cheese sandwich, and it doesn't come anything close to what you get in Philly.
Yeah,
so,
I watch the Food Network a lot because that's what I do, and you guys got that Chicago roast beef thing. It just looks like something I would crawl through a desert for. With the peppers on it, I guess the Giardino peppers or whatever.
Giardinera.
I saw them do one. They dip it in the gravy or something. Oh my God!
It's where you walk into one of. It's where you walk into one of them places and you say, "Give me an Italian beef dipped."
Oh,
and that's
man.
where they take the whole thing and they shove their whole hand into the gravy up to their elbow, bring the thing out soaking, and you don't need teeth to eat it.
Yeah, it looks like something that would be the equivalent of of a cheesesteak. But next time I'm out there, I've never had one of those. So somehow in my travels I've missed. But, if God forbid you guys ever get an open at Cog Hill in 217, and I'm still doing this and whatever, I'm going to sink my teeth into one.
When you come here, I'll make sure you get Chicago hot dogs, all you can eat, and I'll make sure you get to play at Cog Hill. How's that? And it's going to be new. You got to come here.
Well, you tell me, are they going to get an open out of that? Because we haven't been to your fair city, for an open since 2003. And I know we're not going back to Olympia Fields. So, Medina now being a PGA course, sort of, maybe. I don't know what that exactly means. But I'm guessing Chicago would be up for an open around, they're booked through 214, I believe, or 215.
Yeah, 215.
Right, and so, I don't know. Now, I heard that Oakland Hills was either going to get an open or what I heard was Oakland Hills can have another PGA if they want, like around 16, somewhere in there, 17, whatever the case might be, that some of the people at Oakland Hills would like to get an open again, but there's no guarantee they would get an open. So I know that they would like to come to the Midwest for an open, I would think. They don't want to go too long without being in your neck of the woods. So to me, it seems like, we've had this conversation before. I think Cog Hill would be semi-logical only because they're now taking it to all these public venues. but I guess Cog Hill has to do some things to get the USGA on board. I don't know, but I think.
Well, that's why they're doing a multi-million-dollar do-over restoration with Reese Jones.
Yeah, well, that's usually what gets you an Open. So
yeah.
I'm guessing somewhere around 16, 17, 18. You know, Cog Hill, that would be great. I think that would be. Certain areas of the country, Philadelphia went way too long without having one, and we're getting one in 13. So we'll see.
Well, I'll tell you, the chances of me and Mike Kern, the day they put you and me on the executive committee of the USGA, I think that's the time everybody should find a place to be buried.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, in all seriousness, it doesn't take these days a lot of brains to figure out where they're going to take Opens. I mean, Pinehurst is going to get one every 10 years. Pebble's going to get one every 10 years. Bethpage is going to get one every 10 years. I think Torrey Pines is going to get one every 10 years. Oakmont should get one every 10 or 12 years. That's 5 right there, and I'm probably leaving 1 or 2 out. I mean, they're not going back to Wingfoot. Wingfoot. They're not going back to Shinnecock.
They're not going back to Wingfoot either because the members don't want it.
Okay. So
and you know what? And here's the other problem.
New York area, though, they want to have Opens in the New York area. So now taking Shinnecock out of the equation, Wingfoot out of the equation, you have Bethpage, Baltusrolls out of the equation because they guys got the 216 PGA. So the USGA is probably looking, actually. I mean, I know Trump wants an Open at one of his courses. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But, what I'm saying is over any 10-year period or 10 to 15-year period, you can pretty much pencil in about 8 or 9 or 10 of the places where they're going to go to. Now, they're taking it to this new place in Washington that I've never been to. But I'm just saying is it only leaves so many spots open. The logical place somewhere in those travels would be either Detroit or Chicago, somewhere in the Midwest. And I just think it's a matter of finding, the course they want to go to. And it just seems to me, from everything you've told me, that the logical step is Cog Hill.
Well, nobody else has the infrastructure. There are some courses here that the golf course standalone could hold a U.S. Open, and that's if you have like 25 or 30 people, like the Pennsylvania State Open or the Illinois Open, walking with each group. One of the reasons they're not going back, the biggest reason they're not going back to Wingfoot is because they can only make $30 million there with ticket sales and infrastructure, and at Torrey Pines they made $50 million.
Well,
so,
Marion's going to be like that too. I mean, I don't think you're not going to put as many people on Marion, obviously, as you're going to put on Torrey Pines. But hey, look, it's a business, Phil. We're out here this week, and I'm telling you right now at Oakland Hills, because of the economy and not Tiger Woods not being here, they're going to make less money this week than they've made a lot of other PGAs. That's just a fact of life. If you're USGA and you can take it to San Diego and make scads and scads and scads of money and have perfect weather every day, why wouldn't you go there once every 10 years? It just makes too much sense from their perspective.
Our guest on this portion of the show is Mike Kern of the Philadelphia Daily News. He's been at the PGA all week at Oakland Hills. What's it like? I mean, I know that they were having trouble selling tickets,
There's
and
no
I kind of
Phil. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said I kind of criticized them. I had Ryan Cannon on, who's the tournament director out there for the PGA, and I'm not picking on them, but I didn't think it was right with this economy and with the gas prices and everything. They were trying to market that event to the Chicago area because we don't have a PGA Tour event here next year. And you can go to Milwaukee and you can go to the Quad Cities, but you're not going to see quality fields there because of the way the PGA Tour is set up. And they asked the tournament directors, you have to guarantee, your sponsor has to guarantee all this money, and the players you'll get, well, here's what we'll guarantee. You'll have 144 that week or whatever it is. And they don't care about the quality of the field. And now this year, suddenly that's become an issue. See?
Well,
and so they marketed here, but, until Tiger Woods got injured and said he wasn't going to play, they were only selling a weekly pass up there. It cost $350. All of a sudden, Tiger Woods isn't playing, and they open up individual day tickets.
Yeah,
now, did they sell out, or what did they say?
No, I don't think that. The word is that they didn't. But here's what you got to look at, Phil. I mean, first of all, that's standard practice. I don't think $350 in this day and age for a weekly pass for a major golf tournament is a lot of money. That's just me. I know what the U.S. Open gets, what the British Open. I mean, that's just life in the 2000s.
Sure, Mike, but it does. But you're talking about people driving, a driving expense, a travel expense from here, and the hotel room.
But Phil, that's just part of doing it. You can't. If people have the money, they're going to go. If people don't have the money, they're not going to go. It's like anything else in life. If I can afford a vacation to Paris, I don't care about going to Paris. I don't care what it costs. If I can't afford a vacation to Paris, it really isn't going to make a difference. That's just the way every tournament does business. I am telling you right now, in that media room, I almost didn't make it out here. My paper came up to me 2 weeks ago and said, look, we had some budget cuts. We're going to have to pass on this PGA. And if Tiger was playing, we probably wouldn't be having the conversation. That's exactly what my boss said to me. Right now, the Ryder Cup is 50-50. Newspapers are in a bad state right now. The economy is in a bad state. If in that media room, there's probably about a third of the people who are usually there aren't there. How much of that is Tiger-driven? Sure, that's a lot. Some of it's just the economy. I'm telling you, there's people that I knew I haven't seen all year. They weren't the Masters. They weren't the U.S. Open. It's a bad business right now. Now, sure, that goes over to the public in general. But what I'm saying to you is 90% of the people who are going to be there anyway are going to be there. Maybe they should have marketed it different. I don't know that. But it's like a vacation resort this year. Are they marketing it different because the price of gas is $1 more than it was last year? I don't know. To me, if I'm going to drive to Myrtle Beach from Philly, and it's going to cost me $50 more in gas, that's not going to prevent me from making the trip. That being said, there's no buzz this week. Tiger has become bigger than the game, and that's a problem they have. Now, they're not going to have it if Tiger comes back next year and everything's honky-dory and he's playing. He's your two-time defending champ who's just coming off one of the great moments in golf history out in San Diego, and he's not here. And I'm just telling you that there is no buzz in the media room. There's no buzz on the course. Now, where there'll be buzz on Sunday, somebody's going to be lifting a trophy. It still counts. But what I think this tournament needs to save itself is Sergio and Phil to be playing, on Sunday and be in contention. That may or may not happen. But it's just golf. You look at the leaderboard. You tell me what's compelling. It's a major championship, but golf better understand that the big guy from Florida drives this show. Phil's the only one that comes close to even moving the sticks like Tiger. And they're finding out. Where do you see these FedEx Cups that nobody's going to care about?
What? The what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And look, they didn't foresee Tiger having to be out for a year with a knee surgery. But I'm just telling you, boy, the world of golf, and people look at it, and all of a sudden, like I said, sports editors look at it and say, well, I only have so much money. Am I going to spend $1,000 or this much money to go to Detroit to cover a tournament? I'm just telling you, the Philadelphia Inquirer's not here this week. And like I said, I got here by the skin of my teeth. One of the reasons I'm probably here is because the Inquirer's not here. And it's sad. But that's the world that we live in with $4 gas and all the other problems we have in the world right now with economies and newspapers. And so, you just sort of got to go with the flow, I guess. Could they have done a better job maybe realizing what was at stake? But then again, let's say you bought a pass for $350 back in, February. And now all of a sudden in June, they're selling them for $250 because people, that don't have the money. How would you feel about that? You'd probably be upset and say, hey, wait a minute, I bought my ticket full price. Why are they giving last-second discounts? It's like anything else. If you check into a hotel and you booked it for $250, now all of a sudden they haven't sold all the rooms, and now all of a sudden they're enticing Mike Kern by giving him a $129 rate, you'd be in the manager's office saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm paying $250. So, you have those issues also. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm not that smart, but it's just different. I think if Tiger was here, trying to win for the third straight year, having won the U.S. Open, who knows what he would have done at the British, I don't know. But I think you would see no noticeable drop-off in people. I think it would be just business as usual.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and you can't foresee that. I mean, that's just, he's hurt. I mean, that's just the way it goes. You try to tread water until he comes back.
Well, the people that listen to this show and the people that read Chicagoland Golf and also has read my blog, I've been predicting this for years and saying the PGA Tour is built around one person. You listen to Tim Fincham, though, no, it's all these guys are good. I wrote a story back in 2000 after he destroyed everybody else in the world that was a decent player at Pebble Beach. And I saw this coming, and I wrote it at that time. Now here it is. And they're not ready to. They haven't done anything to prepare for this. And I'm sorry, you can listen to the players tell us how good they are and everything else all along.
What do you do? You can't. It's like when Anik is dominating the old PGA Tour. I mean, is it Tiger's fault? I mean, what if you're the PGA Tour or whatever? What do? You can market all the other guys all you want. You can throw Sergio at me. You can throw Phil at me. You can throw Patty Harrington. You can take anybody. It's the public. The public wants to see Tiger. They can't get enough of Tiger because he's the greatest golfer that probably ever played. You can't market that. You can't tell people what they should. You can't say to a group of people, hey, let's watch Sergio. He's almost as good as Tiger. He doesn't have any majors, but he's
Mike,
that is not. You can't do it. You can't.
Mike,
people aren't stupid.
Mike, I agree with you. The point I'm trying to make is, no, there's nothing you could do. You're absolutely right. The point is, though, that the PGA Tour built up with all these purses and all these events and these big TV contracts and all this money the guys were making, it was all a house of cards. They didn't want to think that it was one guy, Mike, and you know that. They didn't want to.
But it's not a house of cards if that guy's playing. Whoever thinks a golfer is going to be out, tell me which golfer in the last 50 years has missed a year. Arnold Palmer never missed time. Jack Nicklaus never missed time. I mean, Ben Hogan was out with an auto accident 60 years ago.
But
you just got to, Phil, you can't foresee this. You have to market. That's why their purses are higher. I don't have any problem. So you weather the storm for a half a year to a year, and when he comes back, you hope he's Tiger, which he probably will be, and he's going to play for another 10 to 15 years, and life is good. It's just,
okay.
There's nothing you can do about it. Okay.
Mike, I got a break. Think about this during the break, though. Think about this while we take a break. What happens when Tiger retires? Now what do they do? And that's something that, and while an injury may not be predictable, there's going to become a time and a place because, remember, they thought this guy was going to play 25, 30 events every year like everybody else, and all of a sudden they found out he wasn't. He was going to play 15 or 16 events and pick and choose his spots. That changed everything. I mean, he does things differently. So you think about that while we take a break. That's Mike Kern from the Philadelphia News. He's over at the good old PGA in the Detroit area there at West Bloomfield at Oakland Hills. This is the Chicagoland Golf Show. I'm Phil Kosin. We'll take a break. You're listening to The Score, Sports Radio 670. .721 on The Score. On a Saturday morning, we're going to resume our conversation with our old friend from the Philadelphia Daily News, Mike Kern, in just a second. I'm just a little shook up right now. I guess we're going to have an update at the top of the hour, but if you're just waking up this morning, it seems like Southside Chicagoan fan of The Score, comedian Bernie Mac passed away this morning at the age of 50. He was hospitalized for pneumonia. And all reports had him on his way to recovery, and now we get this news just a few minutes ago that Bernie Mac has passed away this morning, and we'll have more details on that at the top of the hour. So, kind of a casts a pall over the day a little bit here today. All right, let's get back to Mike Kern and the PGA Championship. I'm sorry, Mike, that news just kind of shook me up a little bit.
Yeah, sorry to. I know him best from the Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's, those movies. But I've seen his stand-up, too. I mean, yeah, he's...
Mr. 3000.
Hey, I'm 50 years old, too, so, whenever you hear that stuff, it kind of hits you a little bit. But,
right.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, we were talking about the PGA Tour, and the point I was trying to make was that this whole thing with all these purses, it's all because of Tiger Woods. And I wrote this on my blog several times. I reiterated it this week. When he goes away, now temporarily, in the future for permanent, all these purses are going to come back down. I don't want to be I want to be a fly on the wall at that players' advisory board meeting when Tim Fincham tells those guys, because of this, that, and the other, we have to lower purses. And you don't have to look any further. My producer, Dave White, is the world's biggest NASCAR fan, and it's happening now in NASCAR where these teams are having trouble getting sponsorship, and sponsors are dropping NASCAR sponsorships. You're also seeing the thing on the LPGA Tour. Of course, they released it late on a Friday, which makes sense if you want to hide news. And they sent out a release saying, well, it was a joint announcement by the LPGA Tour and Ginn. But the whole point is they lost the Ginn Tribute, was their highest paying event. They've also lost the Safeway event, and they could lose two more. The lady in charge, that moron that's in charge of the LPGA Tour, Carolyn Bivens, could be down 4 events going to next year. This after a year after she raised prices on everybody because she thought she overvalued her product. So where do we go?
Well, Phil, you touch on 15 different things in 2 sentences. And first of all,
the point is the sponsorship dollars are going to go away.
Well, because the economy in the last 18 months, if you go back 18 months, tell me anybody foresaw what we're going through now. I mean, newspapers are in the toilet.
Mike, I understand that.
Phil, hold on a second now, because I have invested interest in the Ginn thing because they took away our Atlantic City tournament 2 years ago to give it to the Ginn people.
Right.
And we said at the time, this is, but we were talking about the PGA. What the LPGA's problems are, nobody cares. That's because they have too many foreign players and there's too much. It's become a global tour, and that's fine, but don't try to sell it to me in America. When what Tiger Woods does, you can't sit there and say, we have this great thing because of Tiger Woods, but then worry about what's going to happen when Tiger is here. Obviously, 10 or 12 or 15 years from now, whenever Tiger calls it a career, yeah, life is going to change unless there's other players who come up. There's always somebody who's going to come along. People said with Jack Nicklaus left, well, what's golf going to do? Okay, then Greg Norman came along, and Greg Norman, moved the dial, and then you went through a little bit of a period where we were wondering what's going to happen. Then Tiger comes along. There will be other players. When Phil Mickelson 2.5 years ago, was winning his 3 majors, Phil was almost as big as Tiger. He was huge. People were all over Phil, and life was good. And then Phil imploded at Wingfoot, and we haven't seen the same Phil. Life will go on. Obviously, it's going to be different. It's just the way. But what's happened with the economy over the last year or so has also had a lot to do with this. Regardless, I'm sure with NASCAR, $4 gas does not help NASCAR. You go and you weather what you weather. I can't worry about what life is going to be like on the PGA Tour 15 years from now. You just can't. You can't. You deal with what you have, and what they have right now is the most marketable athlete on the face of the planet. They're better off than most because they can sell him to TV, to fans, to whomever, as long as he's still Tiger or a reasonable facsimile, which I assume he will be. So I still think the PGA Tour is in much, much better shape. Sure, they're going to probably take some hits. You can't even get a PGA Tour event. There's no room on the schedule. They tried to get one in Philadelphia. Nobody could come up with the $7 million. The economy right now, it just stinks all over the place. It affects everything. It affects the price of your milk. It affects the price of your gas. It's just, and we have to weather this.
Mike, I got a minute left.
Yeah.
So give me your predictions. Tell me let's get back to the PGA real quick. What is going to happen there? What do you see happening over the weekend?
Well, I think a high score is going to win. I think 283, 284, 285, something in there. I think it would really help this tournament if Sergio and Phil would get in the fight. But, boy, I think, can my local boy Sean O'Hare win? Be a great story for us. I don't know. I didn't have a clue coming into this week. And I'm, you look at that leaderboard, you just kind of scratch your head a little bit, and how the Ryder Cup shaking out and all that. I don't know. They're going to give a trophy to somebody Sunday, and somebody's probably going to suggest there should be an asterisk next to it. And I'll just say, hey, the guy won a major, let him enjoy it. So
Right.
Hopefully, I mean, for golf's sake, I think it'd be great if it was Phil or Sergio. I'm not sure if they can kind of get it done. But,
all right. Hey, have fun there. You know what I'll do? You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call you. We're going to set something up in the next few weeks on a week there isn't a major when you're at home, because I want to discuss this other thing, but I don't want to do it at the expense of the PGA this week. So that's a discussion that we will continue to have because it's fascinating, ain't it? The only
thing, though, you got to get me some Smith & Walensky's gift certificates in.
Yeah. Just walk in the door and tell Chef Hans that I sent you. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, they'll show you to a table after you wait for a while. No, I'm kidding. All right, have fun. I'll talk to you soon.
I'll try.
That's
Take
Mike.
It easy, Phil.
All right, buddy. That's Mike Kern of the Philadelphia Daily News. If you, he's right though about the way the newspapers are treating this. Ed Sherman from the Tribune didn't get out there until Thursday. Usually, in the old days, everybody used to be on site on a Monday. And as soon as I get my old leg healed up and I can move around a little bit better, I'm going back to those things. It's killing me to sit here at home and watch these things on TV when I've made so many of them over the last 30 years, but no sense going if you can't walk around freely like you'd want to. But the Chicago Sun-Times on Thursday morning, for instance, they didn't send a writer, and they didn't even have a lead. They had no lead the first day of the PGA Championship. That's how tight space and money is at some of these papers. It's 7:30 in Chicago. I'm Phil Kosin. You're listening to The Score. We're coming back on the other side with Jack Barry right here on Sports Radio 670.
It gets more difficult in the afternoon. So the leaders are going to have a harder time tomorrow as the greens get firmer and crustier. It's and a little bumpier, and the ball doesn't track. You can't hit it firm enough. All the guys who are in the lead and in the top half of the field will have a tougher course than tomorrow afternoon.
Well, Phil, I'll just say this. There's a lot of people right now that are struggling to pay their energy bills and their food bills and everything. So, you know what? In the overall scheme of things, who cares? 7:35 in Chicago. We bring in our columnist from Chicagoland Golf who has left more DNA all over Oakland Hills golf course over the years. Jack Barry. Hi, Jack. How are you?
Good morning, Phil.
A little too much wine over there or what?
Well, there's been some of that, but a lot of the guys say, hey, they admit this is a major championship, and major championships are a lot tougher than the normal weekly fare that they get on the PGA Tour. It's been so windy. Not quite as much as at Birkdale, maybe. Hasn't gotten up to 50 miles an hour. But beautiful blue skies, nice big white puffy clouds, and then down below that wind is just ripping. And the 9th and the 18th holes, which go back to the clubhouse, the 9th is a long par 3, and 18 is a par 4 for them. That's really designed as a par 5, and they have been the two toughest holes, both in the first and the second round. And I can be sure that they will remain so the rest of the way.
Well, I was watching the coverage yesterday, and J.B. Holmes didn't seem to have trouble with 18. He had driver 7-iron in there, right?
You're right. But, Phil, how many guys hit it as far as J.B. Holmes?
Well, let's see. Besides you, me, Dave Richards.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, in our dreams.
Yeah.
But Holmes really is a ripper, and he says when he's feeling good, when his driver's in the fairway, well, then he's going to go for it. He's going to use the big stick all the time. And so far, his driver has been pretty much finding the fairways. And here, that's the secret to having any kind of a chance for a score. You've got to get it in the fairway, and then to have a chance to get the ball anywhere near the right spot on these greens. These greens are. When I play there, I have fun because it doesn't. I'm not playing a tournament or anything. My life doesn't depend on it. But when you play them in a tournament, in a major championship, they are so difficult. everything, even the little short putts break. Robert Carlson started yesterday as tied for the lead with Jeeves Singh. And I watched him he started on the 10th hole. He had a real nice second shot in there. He had a reasonable birdie putt, couldn't have been more than 10, 12 feet or so, and it just clipped the edge of the hole, and shoot, it went like 3, 4 feet by. And then there's a club pro was playing in his group, and this guy was almost like playing hockey, trying to get a real short putt into the hole. And unfortunately, I think Carlson must have been watching him, because I knew he would not make it. So bingo, 3-putt right off the bat, and it is very, very difficult.
Let me just inject with a little news right now. Hunter Mahan missed the cut. And and everybody out there at Oakland Hills, including the women running the concession stands, beat him. The only people, our old friend Hunter Mahan, you remember the comments he made about he wanted to get paid to play in the Ryder Cup. Well, you know what? He took himself off the table yesterday. The only people he beat was 5 of the 20 club pros in the field, and I'm sure he's gone home this weekend and he's feeling real good about himself.
Right. Well, after the story appeared in Golf Magazine, he called the PGA Tour. He called called the PGA to apologize, and he called the captain Paul Azinger to apologize, and Joe Steranka and Brian Whitcomb, the president and the executive director of the PGA, said, "Well, we thank you for the call and all, but maybe we hope if you play on the Ryder Cup that you'll change your mind and you'll see what it's like, and then we'll meet on the 50-yard line and we'll talk about it." I thought that they handled it very well, whereas he handled it just like some spoiled kid. He obviously knew nothing about the background of the Ryder Cup. How many? Here's Paul Azinger. He's a guy who fights heart and soul to play and to be on a Ryder Cup team, and everything that he's gone through. And here's a guy who really knows nothing about it and shooting off his mouth.
Well, he's sorry after he said it. I'm sure John Edwards is sorry this morning too, right?
yeah. Right.
They're never sorry until they get caught, or unless they get the boys roasted a little bit,
Correct.
Okay, because you're one of the defenders for good reason of Oakland Hills, it's really taken its some pops this week in the media. The funny part is, what's really causing the difficulty, narrow fairways are nothing new to these guys. It's the Himalaya greens, the Donald Ross design, not Reese Jones, but Reese Jones has taken all the pipe. And really what makes this golf course difficult is the speed and crispness and the firmness of the greens combined with the salad bar that they got growing along the edges. And that has nothing to do with Reese Jones, does it, Jack?
Absolutely not. The one thing, and all the people who have had a hand in changing Oakland Hills over the years, Robert Trent Jones, Reese's dad, Reese himself, and Art Hills, who also has done some things there, no one has touched the greens. The greens have remained the Donald Ross greens, but they are extremely fast, and they cut them close, although to me that they don't seem as that the green speed isn't like a 13 or anything like that. It's just that the slopes increase the speed so much. And Sergio Garcia, who I will give credit, I thought that a couple times since losing the British Open last year in that playoff, that he kind of reverted to a little bit of a whiner. But he didn't lose his cool yesterday. He 4-putted the 17th green for a double bogey. He came back on 18, and he's only 3 back. And I was impressed with the way he finished and the way he handled it. And he says, it's a tough golf course, and you've got to play strong.
Yes, and I also want to. A little tip of the cap to John Daly, who didn't explode. He played well, He wasn't any kind of a circus act there, and he also missed the cut by only one shot. So you got to give John a little credit for that.
That's right.
What's going to happen now over the weekend, Jack? You know, everybody on TV, all the amateur agronomists on TV are talking about, we need to water these greens. I was listening to the morons on the Golf Channel last night. They got to put water on these greens. This can't go on like this, you know. Yeah, that'd be the day they let the Golf Channel crew go out there and set up the golf course, right? Craig Cam.
Well, if it continues to be windy, why the scores are going to stay the same as they have the first 2 days. Now, I'm not sure that we're going to get as much wind. It was funny, yesterday when I got out there early in the morning, it was windy as could be, but then in the afternoon, towards the later part of the afternoon, when a lot more of the named players were playing, the winds were not as strong, really, as they had been earlier in the day. So it's a lot of it depends on the wind. Sergio says they weren't greens anymore; they were like purples.
Well, that's nothing new in major championship golf, is it, Jack?
That is correct.
All right, what do you see? I got a couple minutes left. What do you see happening this weekend? And by the way, for our listeners, Reach Jones will be on this show next week, and one of the things, of course, we're going to do is ask him to evaluate the effect of his changes on this PGA Championship. But what do we look for this weekend, Jack? I mean, they're all bunched up. How do we break the log jam at the top of the field?
Well, it's funny. I mean, you look at it, and J.B. Holmes, here's a guy who's won twice at Phoenix, you know, with the big smasher, and of course he beat Mickelson this year. He's not been known as as a great artist around the greens. And then Ben Curtis is right behind him, and Ben Curtis, I give him a lot of credit. He has played well in the majors. He played well over at Birkdale, and everybody figured, well, when he won the British Open, well, that was a fluke, and he wouldn't do anything. But he's played hard. He's a grinder, and I give him all the credit in the world for playing so good, because he wears National Football League colors every he gets that contract. And here he's wearing Lions colors. I mean, my God, give him credit for fighting through this terrible miasma of the Detroit Lions, who haven't won a championship since the late 50s. So, he's overcoming that. Justin Rose is maybe he's finally going to live up to everything that was expected of him. He's played well. He had 3 under par 67 yesterday.
When's that going to happen for Adam Scott, Jack?
It's not right now, and he's been kind of hurt off. All different sorts of things have been happening to him this year, and he just hasn't been healthy. He had the finger. He's got some kind of a intestinal problem that nobody has been able to figure out yet, and he's got some problems. So, he's long gone.
Well, you want to take a chance and really stick your neck out and pick somebody?
Yeah, I'll pick Sergio.
All right.
and he played so well here in the Ryder Cup. I mean, man, he just feasted on the place in the Ryder Cup, but this is a little bit different. It's not a team game.
All right, well, maybe we'll check with you next week for a brief word. I know you're a man of many words. I just got done. I'm going to go take a shower. I had Kern on for an hour.
Well, you got an Easterner and a Midwesterner. So,
yeah.
All right. So,
all right. Have fun, Jack. And we'll look for your story on ChicagolandGolf.com later this week.
All right. It'll be there.
Thanks, buddy. All right.
Yep.
We'll see you. Wow, 7:47 in Chicago. We'll take a break and come back with a final word. This is Phil Kosin on the Chicagoland Golf Show on the Score, Sports Radio 670. .51 in Chicago, the Score. I just want to remind you the sad news this morning. We'll have an update at the top of the hour before we turn the radio station over to Brian Peruk. I don't know how to say it. Comedian Bernie Mac dead this morning at the age of 50. That's a surprise because all of the reports said that he was recovering from pneumonia. and we get this sad news this morning, and we'll have an update at the top of the hour. So, Bernie, a big